to meet you, and I'd like to begin our conversation before we get into your work by asking 4 years ago, you were trying to figure out and navigate through this pandemic, when it's going to end, all the ramifications. How did you ultimately make it through that time period, and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Honestly, the pandemic period really was a huge time for me to take a step back and really look at my values and shift some things around. And my work changed, my work style changed. Even some of my values kind of changed in order, and all in really great ways. At this point in time, if I look back 5, 10 years, I never would have imagined I'd be sitting where I am today running a virtual business. Primarily, I do a little bit of in-person work and speaking engagements, but for me, it was a horrible time for many people in many ways. But at the same time, so many things got canceled. There was just time and space to think and read and journal and sit with family and decide what's really important. And for me, that was a clarifying moment where I looked at my skills and my values and started to make more meaningful work happen and started to help people with career transitions. And it's turned into this really fun business for me. And in many ways, various commitments got cut off, and I think it was okay.
Yeah.
It's been for the better. So it was a clarifying time for me in my life.
So if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders, it's career day, and we wanted to get to the heart and soul of what you do every day. One of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would start by saying, you've probably been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's an important question to answer, but I want you to also think just as equally about who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Because when you grow up and you finish school, you're going to have a career, and you might get to a point where you don't like that career. I'm the kind of person who can come alongside you and give you the insights, informations, and assessments to help you navigate to your next steps so you can find that thing that you love so that you're excited to get out of work, get up and go to work every day.
So let's turn the tables a little bit here and ask you, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I was going to be a lawyer.
Okay. Did you pursue
Yep.
it?
I go ahead.
No, did you pursue it?
I went to undergraduate. And I got my bachelor's degree in politics and government, and the plan was to go straight into law school. I started studying for the LSAT toward the end of my college career, and there was just something in me that's like, this doesn't feel right. And so I paused and I took an internship that turned into a job in the Ohio governor's office, and I started my career in government. And in
Okay.
many ways, it was the best decision for me because I got into my work world and ultimately, long story short, figured out that the path to being a lawyer didn't align with my skills and my values and like my personality. Um, and it was a long winding path of getting to where I am now, but no, but a lot of that was from family influences and other things of
Yeah.
wanting to be that lawyer.
So let's go back to the beginnings of your life, where you were born and raised, and how these seeds got cultivated in you to help people find their path in life, to give them, counsel on their career and just in general to find out who they are. How did all of this kind of get harvested and grow into you?
Yeah, so if I look back now, so many of those little seeds make sense, but they didn't for a long time. My mom's a nurse. She's a nurse in her career, and she's one of the most compassionate people I've ever experienced. And she's always trying to help people, and she's her contribution. I come from a military family too, and so there's that element of service. Those are important things that are part of being able to help people that are just core to who I am. And on the other side, my dad was a small business owner, and he was always asking me big questions about the world and about policy and about achievement and all of these things, really getting me to think big at a young age, and always asking people about like their careers and their work and other things like that. So I had this from both sides kind of influenced. And when I was in high school, I got really obsessed with assessments like Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinder, and I did every one I could get my hands on. And I also love to help people with their goals. That was not always met with good reception because people are like, what are you doing in some circumstances? And so I kind of just put that away for a while, but continued through my career, and I got took every assessment I could. If there was a leadership program at work, I did it. And then fast forward this clarifying moment where I start this business, I do this work, and then I bring on an assessment provider to my business. And I sit down and I do it. And the assessment results read out two things. among a number of jobs that would be good fits, but two of them are career advisor and a psychometrician. And I go, that's really interesting. What's a psychometrician? And I learn a psychometrician is the person who creates these assessments. And I go, light bulb moment. I've been interested in helping people with their goals, obsessed with careers. Like if you come and you talk to me about your career and how you got there, I will sit there all day and listen. And suddenly all of these pieces made sense. And I can see this journey. And but it took me a while to get there
Yeah.
because that was not, necessarily the path that was nurtured from a starting point.
So who's been a hero for you? Who's been somebody that you've always admired and looked up to?
Oh gosh, there are a lot of political figures, statesmen from like way back when. When you think about like American history and the time in which we had more of the statesman politician as opposed to the politician we see today. And I think about people like a former presidents, and there are a number of them who had this era of decorum. And I love those folks, but I also am really inspired by the super innovative people in like I mean, I know this might be overused, but like Steve Jobs was incredibly innovative
Yeah.
and he's done so much and he will remain like a fixture, I think, in American history in the tech world. And so I'm inspired by a lot of different people, but even more so by women who get up and get involved in politics. I love them. And so I find inspiration from a lot of people.
I think this election cycle more than any others, and this isn't even really about what's happened in the last month. I really genuinely think in 2024 it's going to be the women that are going to decide this. They've had more rights stripped away. They've had more things, and I really believe that whoever the women in this country get out and vote for, they're going to win the election.
I have no doubt. I mean, women make up, 51% or so of the population. They're educated, they're engaged. And I think now more than ever, they're paying attention. I
Hmm.
think they've always been paying attention, but I think the tides have certainly shifted
Yeah.
based on a lot of factors that have happened. And I think now at this point, more than ever, we have supports built in to support women running for office and help them get there.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but more so, especially I ran for office a number of years ago, and it's just the supports that now exist today. It's mind-boggling in an amazing way.
Yeah. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, spend some time with them, talk to them, who would it be?
Ooh, anyone alive today?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's such a great question. Um, ooh. So there was a congresswoman, I don't think she's in office anymore, but her name was Martha McSally, and I heard her speak a number of years ago. And she was wildly inspiring to me because she was a strong leader. And she just had this ability to just kind of like cut through things. And she got a lot done. And I just remember, like, I went to a lot of rallies and speeches over the years on both sides. And I just remember something jumped out to me about the way she made me feel when I was listening to her speak. And she had some of that decorum that we don't necessarily see always today. I would love to sit down and have lunch with her.
So
Hopefully,
what
she
is your
hears
mo
this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What is your motivation every day to do the work that you do? I mean, you're obviously giving a lot to help people get to a better space in their lives, but you have to hold some back to evolve as a human. What is that collective gumption for you every day to wake up and be you?
I'm really motivated by contribution. And back when I was working for a former governor, we were pulled into a staff meeting one day, and he said something along the lines of, if you go out and truly make a contribution and impact one person's life for the better, um, that's all you need. Like your life is already like worth it in many ways. And every single day that I get to help people, like it lights me up inside. I have people like I had somebody come into my Zoom room a couple of weeks ago and tell me about what something I'd said to her a while back and how it changed her life. And I was like almost crying in this conversation. I'm like, it's the impact there. Like that's the thing that keeps me going. But it's the piece of people get into work and careers for a variety of reasons, and sometimes they don't have all the pieces to evaluate it. And if I found my thing and I found my people and I found a way to where I feel like I'm making an impact every day, if I could help other people do that, that's all the motivation I need. But also, I'm an introvert. And I used to be horrible at networking, and it used to scare me. My palms was wet and I would shake when I'm going into like a one-on-one. And I teach people how to navigate that because it has taught me how to communicate, how to show up, how to have great eye contact, all these things. And so I just want to be able to give these tools and skills to people that might think that either, they don't have the chance to learn them anymore, or it's too late, or they're never going to get that. And if that's the thing that keeps me motivated to keep coming back.
So, have you read the book by Studs Terkel, Working?
I haven't, no.
Oh, when you said that you could sit around all day and listen to people, that whole book was like a total cross-examination of jobs all across America, from blue collar all the way up to top things. It's like the handbook for people that really want to get into the mindset of what was going on at the time. Like there was a black cop in Chicago that was talking about racism that was going on at the time, and that turned into a whole other thing. But just like auto mechanics in Cincinnati and all of these different people. But you should get it because what you're saying and the passion you have was really
Yeah.
what he was going after in that book. So,
Okay. I'm adding that to my reading list
okay,
after after today. Thank you for
totally.
the suggestion.
Yeah. So, you're in the business of helping people, guiding people in the right direction. What's the best advice that you personally have ever gotten in your life?
Oh, I've gotten so much. I would say I had a mentor early on in my career, and she did a lot of showing and creating opportunities for me to learn and experience as opposed to telling. And one of the things that she was able to navigate that still stays with me today is that she was able to demonstrate how you could I think a lot of us walk into our careers and we have a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves. And she was able to pull back that pressure in such a way where she was able to make a really big impact. And what she showed me is that um, this navigates into this perfectionism topic. And she was able to show, rather than tell me, how to navigate through perfectionism, which a lot of the people I talk to every day have some twinge of this, and build. And here's why this shows up. When you're a perfectionist and you go into your career, you're thinking about how you can do a really great job or make it perfect. And that becomes the focus. And what doesn't become the focus is this something I like doing and want to do for the next 30 years? Because sometimes that idea of taking that piece away and not going after the achievement or the perfectionism or trying to climb that ladder, that gets so in the way that you can't take a step back and think, hey, maybe I want to build something over here. A lot of the people that know me and have experienced me over my lifetime don't really get why I took the entrepreneurship route instead of like climbing the ladder where I was, because things were going well,
Yeah.
or taking on like higher titles and things like that. But that piece, that perfectionism piece, and I can't even remember how exactly what she said to me. It was the way she made me felt and how she helped me uncover that part of myself to be able to get curious enough to explore other things.
So in your career, what was the period that you had the most growth? Maybe it was really hard, or
Ooh.
maybe there was a really big reward, but it was just a magnanimous moment of growth that helped kind of make things clear for you to know what you need to do in your life.
There was a moment where I was invited to speak at a university. And at this point in time, I had not formalized my generosity-based networking framework. And so it forced me to formalize it. And the only thing that was going through my head leading up to the speaking engagement was, why me? What do I have to say? And all the imposter syndrome stuff. But I had to put something together and formalize my work because they invited me to speak about my success in this area with networking. And I sat down and I had to formalize something. And then I had to go give this talk to students and share my work with them. And for me, that was such a big deal because I walked out of that room seeing these students light up, network in a way they never have before, and their mindset shifted about networking in an hour. And just seeing how they responded to the content, it was this moment of course I have something to say. You've been doing this work for years and it's never been formalized. And that one speaking engagement is the thing that was the catalyst for a group I now run, and it's a core part of everything that I do. I fill my programs through generosity-based networking. It's everything that I do, and I now embody it. And without that one, it was just like a light switch in many ways flipped after I was done with that speaking engagement. It changed everything in many
Sure.
ways.
So, of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved into in your career, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, there are a number of things. Some of it's the board service work that I've done, but nothing beats that moment when one of my former clients comes back to me and they're like, "Hey, can we reconnect?" And I'm like, "Of course we can." And we sit down and they tell me, "You said this to me." And sometimes I can't even remember exactly what I said to them, but they said, "You said this to me. It made an impact, and I've done X, Y, and G and changed my life." In one case, recently, the one I talked about that just had me almost in tears, it was a woman who was then going back to school because all of these things, these mountains were moved. And to realize you have an impact like that on somebody, the thing that comes back to me, and I talk about this all the time, is that ripple effect. We're impacting the people around us regardless of how we know and how much. And it's that right there, that one person who's now going to be able to go, change her life, finish her education. And I have no idea what that's going to do to her family and the people around her. But like, she did it. I didn't do it. It's that. There's nothing better than that.
So, if you have a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give, and would that version of you listen?
Ooh, would she listen? I don't know if she would listen, but what I would say to her is to spend your 20s exploring things, saying yes, trying different jobs. Don't worry about being in a career for like 5 to 7 years and just worrying about longevity. Experience things, say yes, do more travel. Um, go take, go take a gap year. That was something at the time I would not if that was acceptable. And I think gap years, whether they're before college, after college, or as a mid-career professional to go travel or do something, I think they're underutilized. I would say go take a gap year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have done it though.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I know I am somebody who can be come off as quiet and thoughtful, but I know I'm a really great listener because I love hearing people's stories. Contribution, creativity, freedom, and innovation drive how I show up to serve. And ultimately, I'm somebody who probably works more than I should, but I think if I'm doing something that helps other people, I'm happy to do it.
So, if we get off the call, time machine pulls up, you can go anywhere in the history of this country, more specifically, because
Mhm.
you're civic minded. What would you love to have seen with your own eyes?
I want to be a fly on the wall when when our country was in formation and there weren't women in those rooms. And I want to see what was really happening and how those conversations were occurring and how the negotiations were happening. That's what I would want to see.
Perfect. If anyone wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, any of the good business, where can they go?
They can go to valuesbasedcareers.com. There's tons of information on there, tons of free workshops, or find me on LinkedIn. You can just Google or search my name, Sarah-JanTausch.
Excellent. Sarah, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad we connected. It took a little bit, but we got here. I think third time was the charm, so it's good.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Thank you.